boss. I said, hey, you know who that is? He goes, no, who's that? That's Sam Lewis. What's he doing here? You know, which was kind of cool. But anyway, let's get going. I want to talk about what furniture, you know, how it kind of started. But you know, you might have started off with something like this, so we can think log cabin, right? And so, you know, at the beginning it was just real utilitarian, and you can see they split the log, drilled some holes, and put some twigs under there kind of thing. A student made this a while back. But this might have been the kind of stuff that was hand-hewn and not really furniture yet. So when the colonists came, the first thing they were doing was survival and just trying to make things work. And so it took some years before people could probably afford furniture, or they were setting up shops, or people were actually doing furniture, okay? And so, you know, some of the traditional techniques making furniture, you know, you can bring furniture down to really 3 ingredients that are made, and this is a very simple way to look at it. But you know, we make panels, okay, and when we make panels, you know, it's just usually a glue joint, okay, and their problem is that they expand and contract, okay. So then we solve that issue with a frame. And so once you have a frame and a panel, okay, woodworking is now in a museum, because the panel only stuff is pretty, not archaic, but the frame and panel was really, I would call that the wheel for us furniture makers, because now look at your front door, and even if it doesn't look like a frame and panel, it is a frame and panel. And these days they're stamped out of metal, and what do they look like? Frame and panels, or they still are. So how do we put the frames together traditionally? What's that? The only good dowel has a piece of lead going through the center of it. Or it's one that's pinning a, what kind of joinery would you put traditionally? Frame and panel. A mortise and tenon, exactly. And so that's, you know, an abbreviated form would be a tongue and groove, but there's all kinds of different ways to try to achieve that kind of strength, but the mortise and tenon kind of wins, okay? And so if we've got a panel, we've got a frame, the third part of this hub would be the box, which can be a drawer, which can be all kinds of things, and the traditional way to do that was a dovetail. So now we've got the mortise and tenon, and we've got the dovetail, and when you're talking about fine furniture, those are some of the hallmarks, some of the keys that were displayed. So let's
You want to hand it out?
oh,
I've got it.
that should have been first. You want to hand that
That's
out?
what I thought, yeah.
Can I forward you? All right, so the first stuff we'll call, and see, a lot of these names are hand-me-down names. There might be a dialect, because when I say early American furniture, what might you think about? You might think about that grand mahogany stuff that you see at the museums, the fancier stuff. But the truly American would be stuff that was, again, pretty utilitarian, but a step up from a guy in the backyard with an axe. So we're actually making furniture. And some of the early American furniture we could talk about is a Windsor chair. And a lot of this stuff was coming from the old country. So the guys from England knew how to do this. But they were now using the woods that were local woods, and they were actually using tools that they were probably creating or bringing over, and that was kind of the thing. But you know, the thing about a Windsor chair is it's really, really bringing nature in, because you've got an oak steam bent hoop up here, and then these oak spindles are done with a spoke shave, pretty simply. The seat's made out of, who wants to guess? What? Pine. Huh. And they get a shovel and they bend it and sharpen it. It's called a gutter axe. And they kind of start doing this to chew out the seat. Well, the other thing is, most of the rungs in here and the bottom ones are maple. Nice and hard and strong. And guess what? When you take a hard maple and you bang it into a soft pine, what happens? The pine says thank you, and the damn thing fits. Okay. So then, how do you lock that on? Well, you lock it on like any hammerhead's been locked on to a hammer, right? Which is a wedge. And they pound it in, and they split these apart at the legs, and they're also splitting them apart here to lock them in. Okay, so this is something that was cobbled together in a day and sold for $1. You know, things have changed a little bit, okay? And so this has got air-dried material and from there. And so now an Appalachian ladderback, I'm from North Carolina, so I'm pretty good at that. But anyway, the amazing thing about this is kind of a Windsor chair. It's in the category, I call it ladderback because you'll see 2 or 3, it kind of looks like a ladder. But the really cool thing about this is you see the guy from the mountain, you know, and he's probably hillbilly, and he's probably got his corn pipe popping. And you know what? They had wood technology down to science. Because what they did, if we've got kiln dried material that we're using, most of us in our shops, what does that dry down to? It's 100% moisture content when it's in the ground, and so now, what do they dry it to? 6 to 12, so let's just call that 10%. Okay, now softwood is usually dried, if they call it kiln dried, to 20%. Don't believe those guys at the orange store, but it's supposed to be down to 20%. And what happens between 20 and 10 when it dries? It shrinks. So here's what they did. They would have the legs air dried to 20%. Then they would have these back slats, okay, and the rungs down here dried to 10%. And right before they put the thing together, they'd get hot sand and put the ends of these dowels, let's say, in the hot sand to shrink them down even more. Then what happens? You put that joint together, when it comes back to, you know, to ambient pressure, that stuff that was in the sand grew a little bit, but with time, what happens with the leg that's 20%? It shrinks, and it bites onto that thing. So they've got these joints, they call them setting chairs, that have been lasting forever, and these are the kind you get to do this with, and you know how that works. Where's that skateboard? You're gonna do a 360 on the back leg, and these things are still gonna work. And another really cool thing is they use some natural material, that's actually hickory bark, that was split and woven. And you see, these really aren't shaker chairs, but it's easy to confuse the two. And they have like a belt, like they use nylon webbing. They would use cloth webbing, and they would weave a seat very similar to this, but with the webbing. Okay, so there we'll be talking about, you know, and I'm going to use my cheat sheet because I want to kind of help us out with that. So that would be what we call the early American. And we've got some pictures down there, country stuff, okay? You're gonna see paint on this stuff. That paint right here, this blue stuff, is melt paint in the backyard, okay? And that stuff's still around. You can find it at Rockler and Woodcraft. They still sell it, and it's pretty good stuff, okay? So the next thing we'll go to is we'll go to Queen Anne, and a lot of times, you know, traditional furniture, I don't know about grandma's house, but you know, the aunt and uncle that drive a really fancy car and probably has a really cool car in the garage and only comes out on Sunday, that's the kind of furniture I'd be thinking about. And Queen Anne, okay, is a style that was brought from England and kind of follow what the Queen did, what she had in her house. Okay, so some of the hallmarks of Queen Anne are definitely the cabriole legs, okay? This one turned at the bottom to make what we're going to call pantry, okay? And then the rest was whittled out on a bandsaw to begin with, okay? And then you take a chisel or a spoke blade and start getting this round till you see it pretty flowy right here, okay, like this. So some of the other forms you'd see are low boy, okay? There'd probably be a shell that was carved to it, a Newport shell, whatever style you want that. And then it might have a larger chest on top of it. And we usually got a high boy, but the low boy, then the high boy, if you look it up in the dictionary, it's the stuff that was called a chest on chest. And those boys, you couldn't reach. And what was that? Couldn't rip off the family jewel real easy. So that's why we're making steps so you get it ripped off. Okay, so you don't need something like that. So this chair is a really good replication, and I know Bob Rainey's got some as well. That some legs over there, he's been turned on the leg
the little steps, little footstool over here, really cool. But this was very similar to what happened with chair. And this is a highly evolved form of furniture. And look for me on this page, I'm turning mine over. When you look at me now, you see, let me see the chair. Okay, yeah, chair. What times really fun is it's not that pronounced here. You'll have the negative space here look just like a bird. And it'll look to bird, almost, we understand bookman. Okay. This, you kind of see bird in that spot, negative space. But it's one of those things that's really teach that they and then they come back, oh my God, at the museum I saw, this bird was the that, they're playing with your aesthetics, is what they're doing. Okay, so, it's really easy to put this in Canada, but this table's probably cut for it. More price than this 320, but this is and federal is whoever straightens up. They started doing these tapes, and they buy the Queen Anne. You're gonna say Muhammad, you're gonna say Muhammad, you're gonna share it 8 times. But here they start a lot of words. Now I thought it's here, the king, queens, if you want that, but the captains of trade, they're selling the first and so on. They actually, afford them. They're bringing in words, bringing in beer. Why is there so priced dollar? Okay, but what's yours? Can't afford that much money. What's a fortune behind? You could buy a long beat. Heck, you're gonna get here. And one chair buttered up and so forth. Now, one tree, you 10 rent for that tree. My brother lumber killing $4,000. So where'd you go? I didn't tell you, you've been to Golden. We have guys over 3 or 4 years, they make equal aware $30 million copy. Their year is because this been in they want that for the assholes stuff. So Venetia showing up, you get over ball. Now you can see the stuff, and we thought about this, and we actually class it, and it is perfect, okay, but this finds the wall, and comes this time, and so you guys take the people, this tape, okay, right there, you okay, of course it's put that saw on